there is yet another episode of the Library System G. My name is Christopher Ebenezer Anko, and today I'm here with our father and our mother, who happens to be the founders of Books for African Library Projects, and we are going to interact with them today to see how far they've come with the Books for African Library Project. They have been in existence for quite some number of years now, since the year 1997. I think that's right, 1997 till date, and they've been able to help establish some libraries across the length and breadth of the country. And we're here today. They no longer support libraries with books like they started initially, like they were doing, where they bring in a whole lot of books to help establish libraries. But the few libraries that are still surviving, they are still helping them with books annually, and they always fly all the way from the United States of America, come to Ghana annually, in exception of 2020 and 2021 due to the COVID. So I'm here today with Mr. Kurt Bromley Kweku. One may be saying why the name Kweku. I think you will be able to tell a little bit about that before we go into our interview. So Mr. Kurt, today we are here with you.
Yes, well, they born me on Wednesday, so what should I say?
So you said he was born on Wednesday, so since in Ghana we use our days, weekdays for our name, so he's Mr. Kweku.
Yeah.
In Ghana is Mr. Kweku.
I'm part Ghanaian. I came to Ghana in 1967, so I've been here a long time. So,
and it may interest you to know that you can speak Twi as well. So if you are with me, I can
Annie. Yeah.
So I don't know how I can say. And so Mr. Kurt, you've been in the country, like you stated. I don't know what. All right. So on my left here is our mother, like I stated earlier on. She also go by the name Nana. She is now Nana. So I think she can help me.
Nana Chirwa.
Nana Chirwa.
Nana Afuapa Chirwa.
So she goes
the
by
first.
so she goes by the name Nana Afuapa Chirwa the first. So she's now a queen mother here, and she
David
chief. Oh, okay.
He's
Sorry for
clan chief.
She's a clan chief here.
Jumana clan.
Yeah, Jumana clan chief here in Kuprantume, and she also happens to be our mother, and she's a wife of Mr. Bromley. And this our brother here too, known as Richard. Richard Amankwa, who has just joined us this year, who is taking charge from Solomon. He will be in charge of the Kuprantume branch library, which happens to be the first library that was established by Books for African Library Projects. So now back to our interview with Mr. Kurt. Like he was saying, he said he was born here. So Mr. Kurt, kindly give us details of that.
Right. So, I was born in Akron, Ohio, and I took my degree from university, and then I joined the U.S. Peace Corps and came to teach in Abitifi, Kwaru. And as it happened, I visited a friend at Winneba Specialist Teacher Training College in Winneba, and I met my wife there. And she was a national runner, national reputation as Hilda Kwabwa from Ofori Penning Secondary School. And so we dated and we married in 1969, traditional marriage, and then we also had church wedding. We have 2 children and 6 grandchildren, and I was career teacher, but librarian. I love books, but I was not a librarian. So Nana has to tell that part of the story, how we started in libraries.
Okay, so you heard it all. We are going to Nana now to see how they started with the library initiative. So Nana, please, can you throw more light on how you all started with the library initiative?
It all started in 1996. Around 1996, and I was having some blackouts, which means kind of will fade. I feel dizzy, and I had to brace myself against anybody who was near me, or a wall if I was near a building. one day I had an episode that really frightened me. So we called the doctor. My husband had been urging me to see a doctor and I'd been putting him off. But anyway, so 1996, I did, after the episode of a blackout, of not being aware of my surroundings, I made an appointment to see a doctor, and through that appointment, I was found that I had a brain tumor in my forehead. And there were some symptoms that I had been going through for about 2 years or more, but I kind of ignored it. But anyway, so I had to undergo radical surgery to remove the brain tumor because that was my only option I was given. And my recovery was very hard. It was by the grace of God that I'm sitting here today. And I had to start all over learning everything. And a grown up, I was then, I think I was 49 years old. And because the tumor was right on my frontal lobe, which is my forehead, it had kind of blocked out my memory. I had to learn to redo everything in life. And during that recovery, God spoke to me. It was a lot of prayers. As I said, it's by God's grace that I'm sitting here today. And God spoke to me saying I should go build a library. I was sitting in the library. My husband was doing the work for his graduate program. And that inspiration, that voice came to me. So I shared that with him. And with our children, and then with people that I've been working with. I've been working as a nurse in the U.S. for over 20 years at that time, 22 or 23 years. And all of a sudden, I couldn't, after the surgery, because of lapse in my memory, I couldn't go back to work. But that voice, coming to me and sharing with people who had known me for years, and observe the difficulties that I went through recovering. God opened their hearts up, and I went to many churches, many institutions, giving telling about my ordeal that I had, and people started giving me money, donating school children, individuals started giving money. So we 1997, 4 months after my surgery, not quite recovered yet, I came to Brentini and tried to get a library started. At first, the people were very interested, but I had problems getting in line to put up the building. So everybody that I went to didn't want that. So find this building, maybe you could take it later on, right across from us, where that was the building that we put up our own money, our own finances, and put up that building. And then we 3,000 books. We sorted out the books and everything else, and 1997, after collecting 3,000 books and donation that people gave us, I came here to Brentini, still recovering, but I had difficulty finding a place to put up the building. So I asked my mom and my older sister, who have since passed, if they could give me part of this property. So there were some trees. So it was just my mother's building. It was all trees around here, but they did give me that little spot. And using our own money, we were able to put up the building and catalog the books. That's my system. train somebody to manage it. And in the following year, we brought more books. And people who lived there, actually it was Volta region. There was a man from my friend that we met who lived here, asked for us to repeat the same thing, put up a building for a library, but we couldn't afford to do it. But if they could find a large room or put up a building and build shelves, we'd be able to help them. That was Delight's place. What is that name of it? Mepepatos. That was the second.
Okay.
The second place, second town that we were able to supply them. So in 1998, we went to, in addition to adding more books to the Quintini Library, we also helped Mepepatos. And then year after year, more people came to us. Yeah, so we ended up having 64 libraries all over Ghana. And mostly when they came to us, it was a collaborative effort. They had to provide the building and make the shelves. We always encourage them to make the minimum of about 15 shelves, because that will give them 3,000 books. You could make more. The more shelves that you need, the more books that you could. And so we opened libraries. Some of them had 12,000 books, some had 10,000, some had 5, some had 3,000 being the minimum one. So it was just word of mouth as people heard about us, but also by God's grace, because not only did it spread in Ghana, but in US, some articles were made about us, and so the town that we lived in, Ohio, Akron, Ohio, many people started calling us about books, and every year we'll have a fundraising. I'll cook, cook Ghana food, and then I also do some Ghanaian traditional dancing, and people will come, they will have free food, and they'll also get to see traditional Ghana dancing. And then during that time, we pass baskets, and then people would donate money. And so the money that we used, that were given, also supported the shipment, because we were, until about 2011, we were shipping 40-foot containers with a minimum of 30,000 books. So in addition to my husband working, and me, because of my illness, couldn't go back to nursing, but it became like a full-time job. People would call us, and then going to their houses or schools, universities, colleges, collecting books, and then sorting them out. So 30,000 were books that we actually brought them, but usually we had about 40,000, because we go through them before them, and then we could group them and box them. And the fundraising that the money that we got from fundraising, we used to ship. And so we did that. And then by each year, the cost was getting a little prohibitive. And so, especially in Ghana, Ghana port, number of drives that you have to. And so what we did was that we decided, I think it was maybe 3 years ago, so 3 or 4 years ago, we decided that we weren't going to start any new libraries like we had been doing normally. We traveled all over Ghana, just every which way, but we only serve rural areas. But because we were first of all getting older, because carrying the boxes, it takes we did them, but it's a time that you have to tell yourself that. So anyway, about 4 years ago, we finished our last new libraries that we started. Christopher,
Well,
you,
Christopher
you
is
were the last library.
The last who came on
Right.
board.
Christopher heard about us, and we said that if she could give us report, yearly report, and he was very good. He did. So he came to our in-service, and we went with him.
Of course,
And,
that was 2019.
Right, and so forth. So that was the last library that we set up. And but yearly, what we've been doing, instead of shipping the books from US to Ghana, we've been using some of the money to buy books. And so SEPCO is a publishing company
in Accra.
in Accra, and we've been buying books from them. And it is good in the sense that, especially the reading books, we are using JAWS, Junior African Writers, and I think it is good for the children to see black people, black children, black writers, and so forth. See about the customs and cultures and different things that we are familiar with. I'm not saying American ones they were good, but I think it's also good to have the African concept and so forth. And then in addition, I think it's good too for the librarians to get in-service, which we've been doing all these years now. They pay their own way, and we put them up, we feed them. Also, there's comradeship. They get to know each other, and we share ideas and so forth. So anyway, I think that's about all.
Well, Nana, we are very grateful for all this insight and the explanation, the journey so far, things you've been through, what you've just told. It has never been an easy journey. It was never on a silver platter. It was rough, it was tough, but like she stated, thanks be to God for being there for them, and God has been good to them. So when you see a library in your locality or in your environment, don't just bypass the library. Do well to visit the library and read something. And if you have a kid or a child, you can equally encourage them to also pay visit to the library and be patrons of the library and make a very good use of the library. Because like she stated, they established 64 libraries, and out of the 64, as we are gathering here today, it's only 16 of them that will be available. Well, one may be asking what could have been the cause, why 64 and only 16 will be coming. Well, I think they've been back to some of the libraries. Mr. Kurt, when you visited some of the libraries, what happened to some of them?
Well, I would say the number one cause for their being closed is that the government and the townspeople failed to pay the librarian. So it takes a real commitment to believe in education and supporting. So that means, yes, you take care of your teachers, but you also have librarians, because in libraries, the children may not get textbooks in the school. They may have to share textbooks and they can't take them home. But if your town has a library, then these children can be going to the library after school and during vacations and be reading, because the more you read, the higher you go. The more you can advance with your skills and education to get a better position. But it takes practice. You have to love reading, but you do learn from reading, and it will definitely help you in your life.
Yeah, I think Mr. Kurt has given us a summarization as well too. So Nana, for we the younger ones coming learning from you each and every year, you devote your time, travel all the way from the States, come to Ghana each and every year. In the section of these 2 years, I made mention of due to the COVID of 2020 and 2021. What word of advice can you give to we, the younger ones, we, your followers?
Well, I think in the first place, everything that we have is God's gift to us. We all have been endowed with certain skills. And so what you do with it is very important. In my case, for instance, as you say, it wasn't easy, you know. However, I was faithful. You know, through God's grace, I was faithful by spreading the news about Liberian, you know, our libraries. And so the advice I can give you in the first of all, when you have whatever you are good at, share that. And especially for the students. I mean, when I was growing up, there were no private schools like you have here. There were no tutorial, you know, classes as they do right now. But we use every opportunity to study, to read. I like reading. And our children, my husband and I, when they were little, you know, we read to them. And so they develop, you know, interest in reading. And reading is very, very important because if you can read, then you can understand. Hopefully you can understand all your textbooks, being mathematics, being geographic, and so you could read and you can understand. Then it's very important not just stick to just the class, you know, the curriculum books, what they teach you. Just read for fun. Because when you read, you get ideas. And for me, my mind is always curious. So, and I love to cook. So, I went to US not knowing anything about, you know, European cooking. And so for I only knew how to cook ampesier and fufu and so forth. But I learned. And I do it my own experiments and so forth. So, don't be bashful about, making mistakes by learning. So my own advice to you is that, first of all, the gift that you've been given, use it well and share it with others. Secondly, education is very important. It is a slow, way of earning. It's a treasure that nobody can take away from you. And it's not only in the classroom that you get this treasure. You get it in the library, especially because you are exposed to so many books and so many ideas and so forth. So my advice is that if you have a library in your town, go there and read.
Right. Thank you very much. So you just heard this. So if you have a library in your town, go there and read. And before I go, I have forgotten one thing. I think they have a book in their name. Yeah, they published the book in their name because I couldn't get a copy in my library, but I know they've been able to support all the other libraries with a copy of their books. Am I right?
You're right.
Yeah. So
not every library has one, but I know Kukantu Library
okay.
has one.
It's called The Lord Does Not Build
The House.
Okay, it's called If the Lord Has Not Built the House.
Psalm 127.
Psalm 127 has been the book, and it is still there. So what's going to happen? I'll show you image cover of that book. Probably I'll try and get the PDF. There's some available. Then I'll share with you those who like reading too. I can share the PDF out with you today. You can also have a glance of what they have written, the journey so far as to how they came up with the books for African Library Progress. Thanks very much. And
yes,
like Nana did, she gave us a word of advice as to how we'll be able to run our affairs. So we want to get one from you too as well.
right. Really, the main advice I have is the more you read, the higher you will go. The more you read, the higher your education. Reading is a skill that takes practice, but it's beautiful in that there are wonderful books. You will love these books, really. Whenever Nana knows it, Nana and we know it, and our children know it. Whenever we have spare moment, I don't look at my phone. I usually have a book with me, and so I'm always reading. Before we had a lorry, we have our own car, but before that, I would travel in Ghana. I'd always be riding in the lorry reading. Kukran to me or Koforidua to Kumasi, to Accra, to Cape Coast, to Tamale. I would be sitting in the lorry reading. Anytime, telly is fine. And TikTok and all these are fine. But the thing is that they come and they go, but books are there. If you read a book by Charles Dickens, if you read a book by Chinua Achebe, then you've learned something. You've gotten someplace further. Somebody will be asking you, questions about education, and you say, oh, I've read Charles Dickens. I've read Chinua Achebe. I've read James Ngugi. I've read Cyprian Ekwesi. I've read Ghanaian, Francis Salome, The Narrow Path, Ghana. The Beautiful Ones Are Not Born. F.W. Sutherland. Krista Ama Edu. I know all these. I've read them, you see. So you can boast about, yes, I know these. Kwesi Brew, famous Ghanaian poet. All these ones. How do you get them? Reading books. So really, you won't waste time if you read. Even if all you have is reading Daily Graphic. Read. Because that's how you get more vocabs, by reading. And then you get broader understanding. You start to understand. You become well informed. So you understand kind of the world around you, what's happening in politics. Why are the teachers going on strike? What complaint have the students to make? You get to know the broad thing. What is happening between Russia and Ukraine right today? What is happening there? What's happening in the UK? All these things you get by reading. So that's my advice. The more you read, the higher you will go.
All right. Thank you very much, Nana and Mr. Kurt, for your time. And we are very grateful for granting us this interview. And I think this is going to go a long way in some people's life too as well. Because myself, I've been learning a lot from you, and even what you've just said today, the insights you've given from your journey, from the initial stage to where you are today. That alone, I've picked a whole lot of things from which I will just not pick them. I'm just going to utilize them into whatever I'm going to do. The field, we are still on the field, and we are still young, coming up, and so far as life is concerned, we'll still be gaining more from you. The advices will be ongoing. So we are grateful for your time, and we pray that God will help us all to meet same time this year at Kukran to do more again. So thank you.
Welcome.